When I was a kid and I first started collecting the Halloween franchise, the first time I saw Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, I absolutely hated it. So, how now, 20 years later, is it one of my favorites?
We stopped at a light and saw him walking in that field behind the Lost River Drive-In. Julie said he was so creepy.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Nick here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. But this is a different kind of video. See, this isn't like a revisited review or anything like that. No, I want to take you guys on the journey that I had with Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. Because over the years on YouTube, I have met so many people that had the exact same experience with this movie. They've had the same journey with this movie. And it's just really been interesting to me. I've really racked my brain about why that is. Why was this movie so jarring at first for so many people, and why now do they love it? A lot of movies in the franchise aren't like that. Usually if you see one and you don't like it, and you know why you don't like it, you don't like it for like the rest of time. I'm never going to come around on Halloween Resurrection. That movie's just bad. Halloween 3 is a little bit different because that was just about expectations. That was about, well, where's Michael Myers? This doesn't even fit into the franchise. And then once people got over that years later, they started to accept that movie for the great sci-fi 80s horror film that it is. Curse is the one that I've been so baffled by. But I first want to take you guys on a trip down memory lane. Let's get in this time capsule together. Let's go back to 12-year-old Nick. At this point, I had just begun collecting the Halloween franchise, almost 20 years ago. And I didn't own Curse yet. I didn't know Curse existed. Like, not only did I not own it, I didn't know it existed. Up to that point, I thought that 5 was the last one of like the OG timeline, and then we got to H2O, which was obviously forgetting 4 and 5. Now, for some of you younger viewers, understand that this was also a time, like the early to mid 2000s, when smartphones weren't really a thing, and a lot of computers at home were these big like box desktop computers. And we had one, and it was in my brother's room, and it was his computer. We didn't have like a family computer. So I didn't have the internet at my fingertips to be like, how many Halloween movies are there? And I think it also threw me off because Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers doesn't have the 6 in the title. You know, I thought H2O was when they dropped that, but no, it was Curse. So I was 12 years old, and we were living in this old house, and I actually dug this house for a lot of reasons, but one of which was that it was a funeral home in the late 1800s, early 1900s, so this thing was very old and very creepy. The architecture was really interesting, there was a lot of history to the house, and I loved the location. It was like a perfect side street in the Midwest. Like, it looked and felt like Haddonfield. I used to walk down the streets like around my house and stuff, and I would like, you know, kind of hum Laurie's theme or whatever because it just kind of looked and felt like that. I don't know. Also, I was a kid. I was weird. So I get home from school, and like I always did in October, as soon as I got home, I would turn on the TV, go to AMC, and see what was playing on Fear Fest at the time. Now, it was also the only time I could actually watch TV because my brother had football practice, and when he was home, he like controlled the TV. So I had a couple hours to myself where I could watch whatever I wanted. And I turn it on, and it says this movie called Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers is about to start. And I'm like, wait, what? So I remember going up to my brother's computer, and I didn't do this a lot because I didn't know how to like delete history and everything like that. I didn't want him to know I was on it. And I like searched it, and I was like, holy, this is the 6th one? Holy crap, how did I miss this? So I watched it. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. As soon as the thing ended, I was sitting there in disbelief. And I was like, that was awful, like truly terrible. Now, it didn't stop me from then calling around all the local Walmarts to find out if any of them had it on DVD. One of them did, and later that week, I went there with my mom, and she bought it for me for $5. And it was actually this one right here. This is the one that I bought for $5 back in, God, now you're making me feel old. I was 12, so we're talking '07? Yeah, back in '07. And yeah, I was really happy to own it, even though I hated the movie, because I was like, finally, like a movie I didn't know existed. I now not only know it exists, but I own it, and I've seen it, and I hate it. And that's where I was with Curse of Michael Myers. And I remember watching it again later that month, and I immediately was like, wait, was I too harsh on this movie? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. I think I still hate this movie. And as the years would go on, I would watch it more and more. And once I got into my late teens, I was like, no, dude, I dig Curse. Like, Curse is awesome. Why is that? Look, I don't want to speak for everybody here. That's not what I'm trying to do. But for me, I think the reason is when I first watched Curse, I didn't recognize anyone. You know, there was no Danielle Harris. Aside from Donald Pleasance, it felt very different. To me, it was jarring, I think, initially to just not have Danielle, but I was supposed to accept that this was Jamie. Yeah, no thanks. And then Jamie gets killed in the first act, and I'm like, yeah, definitely no thanks. And then we go down this like rabbit hole of Michael is being controlled by a cult and it has to do with a constellation and runes and all this. And I was like, this is so dumb. Like, why are we convoluting this franchise? Why are we going to the lengths that we're going to at this point? This just seems like doing too much. That was my initial response to it. And stupidly, too, I also, at the time, I remember thinking like, oh, this thing was so poorly made. Couldn't be further from the truth. It's actually a pretty damn good looking movie. And so I think once I had seen all of these movies time and time again, and it'd been years as a fan, and you know how we are as fans, as time we change, like our tastes change, and something that we were upset with at first, maybe we can kind of start to accept. It's like the redheaded stepchild. But Curse was even more than that. See, I feel like in my first viewing or two with this movie, I was focusing on the wrong things. I was focusing on the things that weren't present and the things that I didn't like. I was totally negating any of the good that the movie was doing. I was totally blocking that out of my mind. I wasn't giving it an opportunity. I was just stuck on what I didn't like. And look, even to this day, I'm still consistent with this thing. Like, I'm still not a fan of the Cult of Thorn. Like, I feel like it was doing a little bit too much. I don't think the route they went in explaining Michael Myers aided the character or the franchise at all. Sure, it gave an explanation, but it's not a good explanation, and it still wasn't necessary, because inherently an explanation in the first place weakens the character. But once I was able to get past a lot of that, I started to see what was really good about the movie. Like, Michael is really good, and also, like, scary. And I've talked about that many times on my channel before. Kara is, like, actually pretty good as the final girl. Like, I wish she had a little bit more to do, but I dug her. Paul Rudd as Tommy Doyle, it was cool to see the character of Tommy Doyle return, and I like Paul in the movie. Donald in his last role as Sam Loomis, like, there was just something really bittersweet about that. It felt very important, and I was there for it. Like, I was totally engaged. The kills are really good in this movie. I actually think Michael does it up compared to other movies for sure. The atmosphere, like the fall atmosphere, the making it look and feel like Halloween in the Midwest, yeah, aces. Like, there's no issues there. I would say this is probably the most atmospheric of all the movies in the franchise. So as I started to really like notice those things, I was like, damn, like, is this movie good? Like, is this movie actually good? And people, like myself included, are really hard on this for unfair reasons. And I would watch it more and I'd watch it more. And I came to the conclusion of like, yes, that is the case. Look, any movie, you can find things about it that you don't like. Any movie. Even your favorite movie in the world. I'm sure there's a moment where you're like, could have done without that. But everything else is perfect. We could nitpick any movie till death, honestly. We could if we wanted to. One, what's the fun in that? Two, you're also not seeing a film for the merit it does have. And I feel like that's doing a disservice to the film personally and to yourself. And I feel like a lot of people get caught up in the minutia of like, oh, this cult and the baby and all that. They don't really focus on anything else with Curse. And a lot of the things I mentioned, like, I think inarguably are done really well here. And let's look at a movie like on the macro here, like big picture. If you're looking at a film and you have an antagonist and a protagonist and this and that, and you go, okay, your antagonist, very good in this movie. Your protagonist, pretty good in this movie. Oh, the way it looks, yeah, pretty solid. The music, yeah, pretty solid. The effects work, oh yeah, great. Don't you start to get to a point where you go, wow, maybe that's better than I gave it credit for. Now, let me be the first to say, though, that doesn't mean that you have to like it more. That doesn't mean that it has to vault all the way into your top 5 in the Halloween franchise, because, look, there are some technically great films that I do not like. You guys know that. I think that happens to all of us. Like, sometimes there's a movie that comes out that everybody loves and it just doesn't work for us, and it's like, yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but, like, I just didn't dig it. So if that's the case with Halloween 6, totally fair. But there's a lot of stuff in this one that I feel like is just so much better than previous iterations. Like, this is the best Myers since easily 2, if not the original. This is the best mask since easily 2, if not the original. These are the best kills at this point in the franchise. Like, I don't even think that's arguable. This is the best atmosphere in the franchise, definitely at that point, but I would say still to this day. And sure, like, plot is important, story is important, so like when a story goes in a weird direction, that can really knock a movie down. Like, it really can. And I think that that's what it was for me. I didn't like the direction the story went in, and I didn't like that Jamie was recast and she died. But you know how that is. That's like kid stuff, like where you're like, oh, they took my toy, like now I'm gonna pout. But like once you get over that, you can actually be like, okay, now let me look at this thing without my bias here. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good. And then it went from pretty good to like great. And now it's right outside the top 5 for me in the Halloween franchise. I fittingly rank this at 6. I just don't think there can be a case that this isn't in the top half. Like for me, it's just, I could never look at this franchise again and be like, yeah, Curse belongs in the bottom half. No, it does a lot of really good shit. And like the point of making this video was to like take you guys on a journey of like my first experience with this movie and like why I didn't like it and how I ended up liking it and now loving it. And also wanting to start that dialogue with you, because that's what really spurred this idea, was that I've been talking to people specifically over the last couple months, and there's been so many people that had the same journey as me. They hated this when they first saw it, and now they're like, by God, if this isn't one of my favorites in the franchise. And it's just really interesting to me. Like, there's just something about that is just really shocking to me. And I think this is the movie in the franchise, more than any other, that has that effect on people. I mentioned Halloween 3 and why, and that's different. I'll also say that Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is definitely getting more of a reappraisal these days, although not as much as like Curse and Halloween 3, but it's nice to see that. But I think Curse is like the one that it was like you watched it and you hated it, and then 10 years later you're like, man, I can't quit you. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know. Am I addicted? Do I need Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers? Yes. So I don't know. I wanted to throw this video together for you guys and just kind of take a trip down memory lane and explain what it was at the time for me, what it is for me now, and how we got there. But I want to hear down below in the comment section what your journey with Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers was. Did you have the same as me, or have you loved this since day one? Or do you still hate it? Like, whatever it is, please let me know. I want to thank you guys so much for watching the video. Please make sure to leave a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.